Hey guys, welcome to another edition of CEO Wisdom Podcast. Today we have a legend with us, David Meltzer. He's co-founder of Sports One Marketing, consultant, business coach as well, keynote speaker, and 3x best-selling author. We're going to talk about CEO-ship, if that's even a word. We're going to talk about his best-selling book and spirituality, everything in between. David, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us briefly a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, so as a speaker, author, entrepreneur, investor, I've really had a journey of three worlds. Grew up poor, living in a world of not enough, a typical victim, everything happened to me. Graduated law school with one desire to buy my mom a house and a car, and transitioned 9 months out of law school into being a millionaire, buying my mom a house and car, and affirming a belief of that money would buy me love and happiness. And this world was not one of being a victim, but one of the world happening for me. And it took me years, over a decade and a half, to realize that the for me world, the world of giving to receive, the more I'll give, the more I'll receive, the world of transactions and negotiations and trading, the world of zero sum, where there's just enough for me, uh, led me to a transition and epiphany of a world that I live in for the last 17 years, catalytically given to me by my wife, who threatened to leave me when I was lost. 2 years later, losing over $100 million, transitioned me to a world that I call the world of more than enough, a value add world, a world of providing value by giving, receiving, appreciating everything, and acknowledging it by not only giving it away, but allowing it to be lost, stolen, even manipulated and cheated from me. Just trying to find the lessons, doing my best, learning lessons, and having fun in an abundant world of more than enough of everything for everyone. And that's what my mission is. The reason I'm here today with you, Charles, is to teach people how to live in abundance, how to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun in their journey to pursue their potential.
I want to get back to two feelings that you had at two specific moments of your life, which happened almost back to back. The first one was getting real rich real quick. How did that feel? And then tell us about the night at which you came back home. I think it was like 5 a.m. and reaching the rock bottom. Tell us about these two moments.
Yeah, well, buying my mom a house and a car, being a millionaire 9 months out of law school was a high beyond high. And it was a great accomplishment. It brought so much happiness and joy. In fact, even after that, everything I did, I touched, turned to gold. But like everything else, there was lessons hidden in the successes, just like it was hidden in the failures and mistakes, the pain, the setbacks, and voids in my life. But for a decade and a half, I had to learn about the value of ego and understanding how money doesn't buy love or happiness. And that led me to that 5:30 a.m. morning when I came home from lying to my wife. I told her I was at a business meeting, and I was really with Lil John, the rapper, at the Grammy Awards. And I came home in an altered state of mind, drugs and alcohol combined. And my wife, in my lost perspective, told me she wasn't happy. I had three daughters under the age of 10 at the time. I had everything everyone else dreamed of, and yet I was unhappy. And my wife told me she was leaving me, that I better take stock in who I was and what I wanted to become. And it took until the next morning when I realized that I didn't hate my dad, I didn't hate my mom, I didn't hate my best friend, and I certainly didn't hate my wife, but instead I hated myself. I had blame and shame and justification all around me in my life. Everyone else were liars, cheaters, manipulators, back end sellers, oversellers. But yet, when I looked deep within myself, my unhappy self, without principles and values, I was the liar, the cheater, the manipulator, the overseller, the back end seller. So I took stock in four values. And from there, over the last 17 years, have built daily practices around those values and even an execution model around those values, which has allowed me. I had lost everything 2 years into the journey, over $100 million, bankrupt, has led me to be able to, not only for myself, but for others, make a lot of money, help a lot of people. And every day is a joy and happiness. I only spend minutes and moments in ego-based interference or fear. The rest of my time is spent in joy, happiness, and peace.
Interesting. Hard look in the mirror. I guess many realizations came about. I think us entrepreneurs, us CEOs, we like to taste all the colors of the rainbow as well to see what fits us and what is good or not for us. I guess you did that and you understood that going at the club with Lil John at 5 a.m. Coming back from the club wasn't the best option for, I would call it a scalable life, right? A life that you can scale and always improve upon 1% better daily kind of. So you had that wonderful insights. I also read that around these same days, years, you started a software company. You went to India. What role did India played in your spirituality and thinking about the world in a different way and kind of putting ego aside?
It's so interesting because, a lot of people, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. So although my wife gave me an awakening towards the values, daily practices, and execution model for my life, I still had a lot of ego issues to overcome. And so when I went to India, I met a woman, a medical doctor on the plane, who looked over at me and asked me a funny question. She said, "Are you okay?" And at that time, although I was on my journey of learning, in my head, I'm like, "Are you kidding? Am I okay? Do you know who I am?" And so I kind of rolled my eyes and said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Why?" And she said, "Well, because you're so full of light and you're blocking it." So I rolled my eyes even more. And I'm like, "Well, thank you, but I'm very happy. I run the most notable sports agency in the world. I'm a multimillionaire, married to my dream girl, living my dream life. So you must have misread me." And she said, "Oh, no, no, no. Do you meditate?" And then I really got into her. I said, "Meditate? Why would I meditate? Only broke, sick, bored people on their mom's couch meditate. I'm way too busy to meditate. I grew up with nothing. I'm a multimillionaire, like I said, in my dream life with my dream wife and my dream family. Why would I meditate?" And she said, "Well, that's too bad because I could teach you to vibrate faster." And from that conversation, she taught me that our vibration or frequency allowed us to raise our awareness, that we could only be aware of that which vibrates equal to or less than us. She invited me to a workshop to learn meditation, theta meditation. I resisted her at first until she hit me or met me where I was at by telling me she could teach me to raise my awareness when to buy or sell. So she tricked me into meditation by meeting me where I was at and aligning my objectives in my life. And sure enough, that workshop changed my life. I've been meditating 20 minutes a day, every single day for 17 years, including through the bankruptcy and losing over $100 million 2 years after I started meditating. And all of these different things, my wife, my values, my practices, and meditation incorporated in those practices allowed me not only to survive a horrible bankruptcy, but to thrive during the bankruptcy and after.
I have a couple of follow-up questions with that. So I do silent retreats quite a lot. I'm not ready to do another 10-day silent meditation again, but it's constant fight between kind of angel and demon, namely the ego and the lack of thereof. And sometimes I come back from these retreats thinking ego is actually important. Ego kind of propels me. It's my ambition. It's the strength that kind of pulls me towards where I want to go in life. And then I can impact a bunch of other people positively and spread great abundance in this world. So I left these retreats sometimes a bit conflicted from the role of ego vs what they teach you in these retreats, which is let go of everything. Who am I? Is the classic question we ask ourselves at this retreat. So tell us about the role of ego and how we can integrate all of that in business. And then I have a couple of meditation related questions.
Yeah, well, my paradigm shift is not one of searching for what we want, but instead I am. I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I'm worthy. What am I doing to interfere, FEAR, with it? And fear is an ego-based consciousness supported by needs of that fear. And so first, understanding and utilizing fear, either as you suggest, to propel you, to get you up, get you started, get you back started, or get you back up. But otherwise, fear can be utilized to interfere with your potential. And so by identifying fear and understanding how to utilize it, either to propel us, to get us up, or to get us out of our own way, is the first crucial distinction that we need to make with the omnipresent ego there to protect and promote us. And so if we utilize the ego in its appropriate manner, we can maximize what we do and use fear for. Now, the majority of the time, fear is interfering. And so we have to identify fear as either fear of the past, which could be guilt or resentment, or fear of the future, which could be anxiety and worry. That's different than the motivation. Now we're looking at interfering with the inspiration, knowing there's something bigger than us, an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that loves us more than our mom. So if we don't utilize fear correctly, we can live our lives in punishment, thinking that motivation is the only purpose of fear. It is not. It is the utilization of fear to get us out of our own way, to identify fear of the past, fear of the future. And instead of trying to out-logic it, reason it, go over it, under it, through it, around it, deny it, cheat it, supply it, whatever we do, what we want to do is identify fear, fear of the past, fear of the future, prescribe the need to be right, need to be offended, need to be separate, inferior, superior, need to be anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, whatever it is. And instead of trying to resist it, simply stop. Breathe through our nose, out through our mouths, get at ease, remember, and recollect our source, the omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing system, unified, abundant system of thought that allows us to roll in the trajectory of what we want, giving meaning to the fear, giving meaning to the past, the defining moments, setbacks, failures, and mistakes, void, shortages, and obstacles of our past, to derive a lesson, a light, and some love in order to accelerate us in the trajectory of where we think we want to be. Fear is essential. Ego-based consciousness is essential to our progress if we utilize the fear to motivate us and to get us out of our own way.
So interesting. So many questions, because as an alpha CEO, if you want, I tend to be very not hunger driven, but always driven by the next mountain. It's never fear. Or I do like to qualify myself or to think of myself as a fearless person. Now, if I dig, that's another story. For example, yesterday I had negative comments on my YouTube video, and that triggered something in me, something really physical, right? Fight. It's not flight in my case, it's fight, you know? And for that, I just decided officially to not respond to any of these comments that are not abundant. But is it that I reach a later stage? Is it my subconscious that is good at hiding my fear? Because I tend to be really much motivation driven. And then I'm going to ask you that same question. Are you, well, you're not fear driven, but you do leverage and utilize fear probably more than I do. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I learned from my fear. So like I said, is this fear to motivate me, or is it interfering with my potential? And I distinguish the fear in that manner. Now, I also know that I have fear every single day, and I'll always have fear because there's no such thing as an egoectomy. We can't get rid of our ego. And then as soon as they can, then there'll be no fear. But utilizing that fear by knowing it's always omnipresent, my mission is to spend minutes and moments in interference, and the rest of the time in the trajectory, aggregating, compounding, and accelerating towards what I think I want, learning lessons along the way. And so I train people, coach them, inspire them, empower them to be in the practice of identifying fear and utilizing it in its appropriate manner. And so I think it's healthy to know that when you get comments in your DMs or on your social media that hurt your feelings or give you a fight or flight reaction, that it is something that you need to process. You need to ask yourself, why am I offended? Why do I have a need to be offended? Probably because somewhere you think that there is part or parcel truth in the negativity, or it is a need to be offended for some other fear of the past that you have, or fear of the future that you're not worthy of what you're trying to do. And so I personally, and I get plenty of negative comments as well, which is really surprising. And some are really stupid, like, you stole gratitude from Gary Vee. I'm older than Gary Vee. I learned gratitude when I was 3. So mathematically, it would be impossible for me to have learned or stolen gratitude from Gary because I'm much older than he is. So, but, I've seen people get offended by these stupid comments as well. For me, I actually turned it around. Whenever there's a negative comment, I say, hey, obviously, I pray for your happiness. If there's anything I can do for you, here's my cell phone number. Give me a call. I'd love to understand why you feel that way, why you feel I'm ugly, why you feel I'm fat, why you think I have a big nose, why you think I stole gratitude. I tell them, by the way, if anyone says I have a big nose, I let them know I have a small face. They just don't understand. But
That you like wine.
exactly. So, but more importantly, I have no need to be offended. I will spend minutes and moments. When I read something, sometimes it hurts my feelings. Usually it hurts my feelings because there's some sort of truth in there. And I would rather spend my time trying to learn about myself than worry about what other people think. What other people think of you, Charles, is none of your business.
Right. So much wisdom in there. And you only get to achieve that stage once you're out there, you're really public, you're almost radically transparent, which I think is very much your case here. The next question I have is quite a simple one and will be useful for many CEOs out there. Which is, can you still get deep in your meditations? And have you seen some change in how deep you can get in your meditations? Because me, it oscillated over the years, and it has been sometimes rocket science of finding out how to still get deep in my meditation. The definition of that is shutting down the voice and feeling replenished after, let's say, a 15 minutes meditation. So I want to get a bit more info about your own meditation and how they're helping you, and if you can still get deep, and if you've seen some variance inside them.
Yeah, absolutely. I get deeper and deeper in meditation. I learn more and evolve more. I have a sleep coach and a meditation coach. A sleep coach to put me in a position when I go to bed to be in a position of recovery and access. My meditation has evolved from just sitting still to being quiet to being aware to a deeper level of transcendence. Because of the unwinding routine, every day I'm plateauing and growing by recovery and access. And so I'm receiving without without interference, information while I sleep. And I utilize meditation at its highest level to transcend the critical information and awareness that I need to plateau and grow during the day, as well as set a baseline so that I know when fear is interfering with my progress, with my potential, that I stop, drop, and roll instead of accelerating in the wrong direction. So having habitual, consistent practice of unwinding, recovery, and access, and then transcendence through meditation allows me not only to progress and accelerate, aggregate, and compound my outcomes, but more importantly, gives me a consistent basis of quantifiable analysis by giving me a baseline in which I work every 24 hours. Because my whole system is I have daily practices, the what, the who, the how, the now, and the why of what I do, say, think, believe, and feel, and a trajectory of what I think I want each day, giving the meaning to that past, including my unwinding routine, the information that I received. And those daily practices keep me present. Eckhart Tolle, whatever way you pronounce it, The Power of Now is a great book to understand my daily practices, my execution model, and my perception of the past and participation in that perception.
Love it. That's a book you need to constantly reread. It's so deep, and I would recommend the book version, not the audiobooks. The audio is just too deep, you know, there's too many insights per words. Fascinating book. Yeah, it changed my life.
Me too.
Regarding what we just spoke about, I have two insights to give the listeners. First is, if you take care of your health, generally speaking, if you biohack, your meditations will be easier. You have less and weird energies flowing in your body. You can get deeper. The second thing is the voice inside your head, right? So basically, do you have this voice constantly telling you things once you meditate, that demon? For example, me yesterday, after that comment, I felt this aggressivity demon kind of fighting back. You know, I would look at things and then I would judge. How do you not absorb others' negative energy?
Yeah, so awareness is interesting for me, and awareness is just not only other people; it's surrounding myself with the right people and the right idea. My frequency is my neighborhood, and so I will take a spectrum of feeding or bleeding analysis when I'm around someone. If somebody bleeds me, I'm going to allow them to fall away. If they continually bleed me, I'm going to fire them from my life. So I'm constantly evaluating via my awareness how people and what they do, say, think, feel, and believe, and how they make me do, say, think, feel, and believe. And when I was going through my transformation, I had to fire a few of my friends because I didn't want those type of people to aggregate, accelerate, and compound in my life. Going places I didn't want to go, doing things I didn't want to do. When I fired them from my life and started to surround myself with people who sit in a situation I want to be in, it was amazing how many more people started to attract to me and from me, of people that they want to be in the same position. That frequency became my neighborhood, and my neighborhood keeps on, as George Jefferson, moving on up. And you can only be aware of that which vibrates equal to you and the collective consciousness that you surround yourself. So I use a great chain of feeding, looking for people that feed me, not bleed me. And I have time for one more question, my friend. And I do, before we get to it, I want to offer everyone in your community, anyone in the community that would like my book, I will sign it, send it to you, pay for shipping and the book. Just email me directly. My 5 daily practices I'll throw in there, david@dmeltzer.com. My email is right there below, david@dmeltzer.com. And if you forget that, just Google my name, David Meltzer. You'll find me.
Right. Thank you for that. One last question. I guess I wish we had more time because I've got so many questions for you, but one
We'll do
that
this again, my friend.
Yeah, I hope so. One last that I had for the end is the books you have behind you. Tell us a bit more about them, surface level, and why they're so important that they deserve to be your background.
Well, yes, the Pyramid of Success with John Wooden is, also a book, but that's a replicate of, to me, the foundational principles to be happy. And it's one of the basis, just like the Course in Miracles, the Power of Now, a variety of different texts. Jay Shetty's a friend of mine, and I wanted to promote his book, and that's his latest book. That's my latest book behind me, Game Time Decision Making. Tillman Fertitta wrote the forward to that, and I utilize all the fun sports stories and sports experiences that I've had to effectuate the antidote to procrastination and feeling overwhelmed, which is prioritization and decision making. And beyond that, too, you see Grover and Elmo. That's one of my favorite books. It's the monster at the end of the book. It's a reminder that I'm the monster at the end of the book, and I'm in my way. And I use to identify fear. That book illustrates that lesson better than any other book done by Sesame Street. And then I have a collectibles book from the owner of the Diamondbacks that he sent me, collectible books, which includes the Clemente collection, which is a family that means a lot to me. I represented them as a sports agent, and so I have that book there as well. We do circulate different books behind me, and so if anyone has a book they'd like to send me, I'd love to read it. And Charles, thank you so much for allowing me to share your community. Like I said, email me, everyone, david@dmeltzer.com. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds.